congratulations, you made it through step one. So this is huge, right? You got it all out. And so how do you feel? Now, a good sign is if that weight of your shoulders is off or you feel a little bit lighter, but you're also a bit scared, right? That's good. It typically means that you are stimulated for growth and ready to commit to progress. Because like deep down in your heart, you know that bottling it all up will just make it worse. So what would it mean to you if you held on to those limiting beliefs, right? How would your life be in 5, 10, or 20 years from now if you didn't change? And what legacy will you leave behind when you die? What will your children say about you in your eulogy? It's like my biggest nightmare, for example, is that when I die, I'm going to meet that person that I could have become in life, right? And so that's why I have a framed quote of the designer and sculptor of the Crazy Horse Memorial here in my office. His name is Kozak Zielkowski. Look him up. If you ever go to South Dakota or North to South Dakota, that's where it is, but you can also Google it on the internet, a Crazy Horse Memorial, and the sculptor who's passed away is like Kozak Zielkowski. And he said, the world asks us one question and one only. Did you do the job? And there's only one answer to that. Yes. You don't say, I would have done it if there had been any money in it. And you don't say, I would have done it if people had been more sympathetic and understood what I was trying to do. You don't say, I would have done it if I hadn't gotten hurt or crippled. And God knows I've been crippled. You don't even say, I would have done the job if I hadn't died. I don't buy that. There's only one answer, and that answer is yes. So let's get real. With those words and a little bit of inspiration from Kozak, paint a picture where you stand and then work towards your yes. So you will not need the results from your latest blood work, your A1C trend lines or food inventory, right? Instead, I will guide you through the process with like a few questions. You will then rate your current situation based on how you feel. When you give your answers, don't paint your picture better or worse than it actually is. So again, just paint it as it is, not better or worse. And be honest with yourself. And remember, there's one person that we lie more to than to anybody else, and that's ourselves. So not better, not worse. So here comes the wheel of diabetes mastery. So what I want you to do is like here, you should have that worksheet. You can download it. Hopefully you have downloaded it. If not, just take a piece of paper, a sheet of paper, draw a circle with 7 pies. Yeah, doesn't have to be perfect. If it's oval and or not really round, it doesn't really matter at this point. What matters is that you go through that exercise and are honest with yourself. So there are 7 pies in here, and with each one represents a vital area of management. So in each area, think through where you are and draw a line across, like similar to what you see here on this sheet here, right here, that line. Just you see here, there's 0 in the middle, 100 up there, and I would ask you some questions, guide you through each area, and you just really draw that line across where you think you are. So don't overthink it. If this here means I'm roughly at 30%, for another person maybe I'm roughly at 40. At this point, it really doesn't matter, right? So also you will make adjustments to that wheel later on as you go through this program. So just draw a line wherever you are, and then at the end of the exercise, you have a great picture of where you are, and I will guide you through what you need to do next. So the first area is diabetes management. And the questions here are, how well do you control your blood sugar, right? So if you are on the perpetual glucose roller coaster, which many of us are, and I've been like multiple times in my life, your line should probably be closer to 0. Now, if you are relatively stable and your A1C is below 7, you are closer to 100. So how often do you measure your blood sugar, right? So if you prick your fingers 5 to 7 times a day and keep a journal, probably closer to 100. If you never measure your blood sugar at all, then draw the line here closer to 0. And remember, it's a totally judgment-free zone up here, right? No one is perfect. Now, we all have failed ourselves multiple times in our diabetes management. I have, for sure. Being honest with yourself is the first step. And draw the line where you feel it belongs. So just visually here, right? You don't need, again, it doesn't have to be 33, 50, 35, 37%, just where you think it is. No judging and no portraying, no making it worse. Just really just where you think you are. And keep in mind, nobody will look at your results anyway, right? So you will not share it with anybody unless you wanted to share it with me later on. So if your diabetes management really sucks right now, then capture it like exactly how you feel, right? Just go with it. So with these thoughts in mind, like ask yourself the following additional questions about your diabetes management. How is your diet? Are you feasting on pizzas and ice cream, or do you adhere to an alkaline diet, for example? If it's pizza and ice cream, you're probably closer to 0. If it's, if you're on a plant-based or alkaline diet, you may be closer to 100. Depends on how you feel. Also, I know that there are two extremes, right? Like pizza and ice cream and alkaline diet. An alkaline diet, for those people who do not know that yet, is like the extreme version of a vegan diet, right? So, and I use those extremes for a purpose, right? So that you can decide where you are. That doesn't mean that I'm not suggesting at all that you need to go through an alkaline diet, although I recommend it. But we also zigzag, right? I'm following an alkaline diet, but I also have ice cream once in a while, right? We should enjoy ourselves as well, right? So, but here, right, you put right now what you feel, okay? What you need to determine here is how healthy you believe your diet is overall. Not what I think, not what anybody else thinks, what you think. So there's no judgment anywhere, like either in my book or on this training course or in this session today. So, and neither should it be in your head, right? Other questions you want to ask, like how regularly and effectively do you take your medication to keep your blood sugar in check? So if you have stopped taking pills or insulin altogether, move your line closer to 0. You probably should put it at 0, actually. If you have this part of diabetes management under control, elevate it to 100%. Do you drink an ounce of water for each pound you weigh, for example, every day? Great, your line is like, move it up a little, right? Do you drink less, or do you live on diet soda and coffee? Move the line down. So how you feel. So then you go and you head to the next, which is your physical well-being. So the questions here that I want you to answer, and then you put the line where you think it belongs, right? Do you make healthy lifestyle choices rather, that support your diabetes management? Do you get enough sleep? Are you building enough muscle and cardiovascular strength? Do you have an established exercise routine? Do you eat healthily? And move your lines, if you can answer, move your lines up rather, if you can answer yes. Do you smoke or consume large amounts of alcohol, sugar, caffeine, empty calories? Then bring the line down. Other factors that move the line are how intimately are you engaged in developing your physical wellness? Do you know your critical health numbers like your cholesterol, weight, blood pressure, blood sugar levels? Now, most importantly, how well do you feel energized? If you haven't worked out in the last 6 months, live on fast food, smoke, drink, and are overweight, then your line will be closer to 0, not at 0, closer, right? So remember, judgment-free zone, just where you feel it is. Now, if health choices are part of your daily routines, and you feel energetic, you're closer to 100%. And don't overthink it. I know, like, I have a friend who's a super toned fitness trainer and yoga teacher, and who feels that she's at 50% of her physical well-being. Well, I thought I was at 60, right? Like if I had that physical fitness or her physical fitness, I would put it at 100. It really depends on how you feel. We all have different standards. The next one that you answer is emotional resilience. So how do you handle stress? Does your blood sugar easily skyrocket under stress, for example, right? move the line closer to 0 if it does. If you get stressed or nervous very quickly and your blood sugar spikes, you're closer to 0. Or, are you okay to live and work independently, right? While, at the same time appreciating the support and friendship of others. So in that case, you bring the line up a little. How well are you aware of your thoughts and feelings about your diabetes? Do you feel that it's unfair, that you cannot eat the food you love, that you cannot live as freely as you would if you hadn't had diabetes? Do you worry about your blood sugar levels all the time? Do you often wonder, why me? And feel self-pity? I've been there. So if you feel that way, just see where you are. If you feel self-pity, you're closer to 0. If you're like, it doesn't faze me at all, you're closer to 100. Are you afraid that people will judge you for having diabetes, for example, right? And as a result, you're not taking your medication at work or at a party. So you're in a business meeting, you don't want to step out, for example, or in a party, you don't want to tell people, and you keep on eating, and your blood sugar skyrockets up because you feel you cannot tell, or you feel ashamed, or you feel kind of like, unworthy, or whatever, that feeling is. Bring your line down. If your outlook on life is positive, despite of your illness, and you accept and love yourself with diabetes, draw the line where you feel you are. If you feel depressed and sad most of the time, bring it down. So there's no right or wrong. We're all at a different place right now. I have been in all of those places that I mentioned today. And I know that some that watch this video feel the same. So keep all your answers into consideration, just draw a line. Next one is financial security. So can you afford your illness, right? And that is a very valid question, right? In the US, for example, people with diabetes have healthcare costs that are about 2.3 times higher than those without diabetes. And in every country, it's a little bit different, but my reference point right now is the US. I reside right now in Ireland, and yes, my costs are also more expensive than that of my wife, for example, who is healthy. So 45% of diabetics in the US, for example, struggle with paying for their medication. And if you also feel the financial impact of diabetes, move the line closer to 0. If you are among the lucky ones that can pay for all the additional costs and then some, your line will be closer to 100. So how much control do you have over your day-to-day and month-to-month finances as a result of your diabetes? Do you hardly feel the impact, or are you struggling to make ends meet? How many choices do you enjoy in your life? And how many do you give up because you cannot afford it as a result of paying for your illness? Are you on track to achieve your financial goals for retirement, for example? And you have enough savings still to generate compound interest to grow your wealth into your retirement. So keep on drawing lines, right? Just put it somewhere where you think is up you are. So the next one is family support. Do you have fun together as a family and build strong, loving bonds? Are you thinking to yourself that you have done this diabetes thing to yourself, and so here I am alone? Or are you afraid that you could face amputation or any major surgery alone? Then draw a line closer to 0. If, on the other hand, your family is working with you as a unit and help you manage your diabetes health, then bring the line further up. How well do you manage your diabetes is directly dependent on the amount of support you get from your family. That's report after report after report. We hear that. So does your family listen to what you think and feel? Do you listen to them? Or are you like self-absorbed with your illness? Can happen as well, right? Does your family support or even join you in making health changes, such as adopting an alkaline diet? Or are they becoming your running buddies, for example, so that they keep you moving just because they want you to keep moving? And do they have realistic expectations about blood glucose levels and avoid blame? So these are the questions that you ask. Just put it where you are, right? So don't get confused about where this line here is on that wheel. That doesn't suggest anything about how you should feel. This is just an illustrated example You draw the line where you think you are, right? So if you feel valued for making a contribution and taking on responsibilities within your family, bring it up, right? Do you have enough, if you have enough quality time to relax and spend meaningful moments with your family, bring it up. If you are preoccupied with your illness and you tend to retreat, bring the line down, right? How often and how many meals do we eat together, for example? Do you have quality conversations over dinner, right? If the answer is yes, bring it up. The answer is no, bring it down. Who loves you? And what about you do they love? How does it feel to be loved by them? So whatever you feel, bring it down. You know, this answer may be the hardest for you to measure because they're so emotional. You know, just write it down, and you may even cry right now at that moment, thinking of where you are. Just draw the line. Next one is spiritual awareness. So spiritual awareness for me doesn't necessarily mean that you're affiliated with a religion, right? So it can, right? But it doesn't have to. I'm not here to tell anyone what they need to believe, right? For me, it means, for example, how much you are in touch with yourself. But do you have a clear sense of direction and purpose for life? You know, and do you accept yourself with diabetes? Spirituality says that you are allowing yourself to be present in the here and now and do not let your mind continually worry over long-term complication and potential hypos and all of that. Yes, that's always on our minds, but that's different from worrying so much that you're not functional. It means that you have a keen appreciation of like nature, the possibilities in life, and you feel grateful for your blessings, possessions, and friendships. So draw a line closer to 100 if you feel that way, and bring it down if you don't. So how well are you connected with your inner being? Do you meditate, practice mindfulness? Do you experience a higher meaning in life and inner peace? So adjust your line according to your answer. So you're somewhere here. And then finally, we go to career and growth. So let's be honest here, right? So people with diabetes do take more sick days per year than healthy persons. Just statistic shows that. We also know in the US, for example, that you know, American companies lose about $40 billion per year by employing people with diabetes. And you know, several studies, other studies find like additional negative associations between people with diabetes and business outcomes. Right? So it's a fact. So we got to deal with it. How do those facts impact you? Do you face discrimination, for example, because you do not have access to the jobs that, for example, are safety sensitive, right? Because employers think you have a risk of hypoglycemia and shouldn't have that job. Office workers, for example, usually can manage their diabetes without it affecting their work. But I have one client that I talked to last week who has one person with type 1 diabetes in the office, and she already took 40 sick days or 40 days off by the end of September. So, and he was really honestly concerned, but didn't know what to do and how to handle with that and how to approach that conversation. But you know, what happens if you're an office worker and you need to work night shifts, right? Or you need to work in areas where you cannot always measure your blood sugar or take your insulin like in real time as you need to. So if you have access to regular meals, right, and breaks, and you have the ability to step out of meetings real quick to get your blood sugar back up when it drops, after it's dropped, and you know you can test your blood sugar levels, then you know all the time as much as you want, bring that line up closer to 100. If you in a job where you're feeling that you're doing what you're meant to do, you know, then you know bring the line up to closer to 100. If you feel that you've taken on a job that doesn't really match your talents because diabetes holds you back, then bring that line closer to 0. Can you use your strength, you know, at work? Or do you need to work against your grain most of the time? That's not a question for people with diabetes, right? That's the question I ask everyone, right? Can you be your best at work, right? Do you receive meaningful recognition for your contributions? How do you rate the relationship between you and your manager? Do you have your supervisor support to take care of your diabetes at work? And are you professionally growing? Do we have at least one true friend at work who looks out for you in case you need help during a hypo? If you can honestly say, I'm cool, my vocation is my calling, I'm fulfilled, I'm energized, I feel motivated, you put your line at 100%. If you are continually holding back, like wanting to punch your coworkers, clients, manager, or boss in the face, you're at 0. So just draw a line where you think you are, where things are with you today. Yeah. Now look at your wheel. As a next step, I would like you to look at that wheel and scribble it out. So your wheel should look like this right now. And now I want to ask yourself, I want you to look at your wheel and ask yourself, if these were the 4 wheels on your car, how fast could you go? How smooth would the ride be? If you are like most people, then your wheel of diabetes mastery will look rough, with some parts stronger than others. It may not be as extreme as you see it here on the screen, but it will still look rough. What we want to do in this program is smooth that wheel out, right? So that you can go fast and with a smoother ride. I know the feeling when you first look at your wheel. When you first look at your wheel and you scream inside your head, whoa, I'm screwed, so I'm not good enough to make this go away, right? So stop that voice inside your head right now, right? Remember that acknowledging and owning your situation is the first step for improvement. So you're one step further to a better life with diabetes right now, just by acknowledging that. Look at it this way. Success, what is success, right? Success is really a result of sound judgment, which in turn comes from experience. And experience is often a result of failure. So you have 2 options, right? You can look at your wheel of diabetes mastery and say, so see, this is how bad I am. I'm never going to get that under control. Or you can say, you know what? I have a great picture right now. I'm one step closer to my goal. So with every mistake that we make, we gain experience and get that one step closer to better health, more sanity and happiness with diabetes. And that's where we want to be. And we're going to start that process right now. So typically in this wheel, there's one area. If you made a change in that one area, it has a positive impact on everything else, right? So in this example here, that person said, the one area that I build out is emotional resilience, right? Because if I have a better relationship with diabetes, right, and I'm stronger and I'm not so faced by my negative thoughts and by stress at work, I will also have time to, let me see real quick. So here, if I build out that emotional resilience, I also have time to spend that with family, right, and build their support and get them involved in my diabetes care. Because I now have the emotional strength and maturity and resilience to do that and face those conversations. That in turn will improve my diabetes management. They will support me physical well-being. And once I have that in place, that will also roll over to my career. So you could do that, right? So that's the decision that this person here has made. Your decision may be different, right? You may say, you know what, I need my family support first. Because if I do not have that, I cannot have that emotional resilience that I need. And if I don't have the emotional resilience that I need, I cannot focus at work. And these things combined impact my diabetes management so negatively that I'm also all downhearted and my spiritual awareness is just not where it needs to be. So So another person may use family support. You may think career, right? You say, like, if I had a job where I can manage my diabetes and my family at the same time and keep that under control, that would also give me the financial security that I need to pay for all of that, which in turn gives me enough time to spend with family, and spending family gives me, the emotional stability and support that I need. So everybody is different. From right now, I just want you to think through which is the one area, if you made a change in that one area, that would have a positive impact on everything else. Because we really have two options here, right? So we can go into all of the 7 areas and say, for each area, I have like a number of action items to improve them. What will happen is that you will have 100, 200, and 300 action items. And when we have those, what happens is we're boiling the ocean. Nothing will ever get done. You're not going to do anything, I promise that. So instead, what we want to do is we want to pick that one area, right, that has an impact on everything else. And then later on, you pick another area, right? So I'm not saying you just take one area that solves all of your problems. No, it's the one area that gets you at least 1, if not even 10 steps closer to your goal. It's not the solve all solution, but it gets you 10 steps closer. And then when you're 10 steps closer, we will cover that in step 6, which is called bridging the gap. You will continue and maybe do that wheel again. And hopefully in 6 weeks from now, that wheel already looks different and you already make different choices. That is the idea here. So let's not boil the ocean. Let's not write down 100 action items and then none of that gets implemented. I want you to narrow down to 4 that you can manage. Today we're going to get to probably less than 10, and then in step 3 we will add your personal strength and some other factors that make you implement something well or not so well, and narrow down to 4 action items. But right now, narrow down to 10 or 12 is fine. That's more manageable than 100. Okay, so let's go back to your wheel and make that choice. Which one is the one area that if you made a change would have a positive impact on everything else? The second area I want to think about is like, which is the area that you are the master of, right? So I'm sure there's one area in that wheel of life where you're doing better than anyone else. Or at least you're doing better than in any other of the areas, or even better than everybody else. But maybe finance, in this case it's finance, right? I have friends who make less money than I do and have better savings, right? Because they are really good and focused on accumulating wealth and reinvesting their money so that it works for them. So I'm sure you have one area that you're better off than anyone else. So pick that, right? So it doesn't matter what it is. In this case here, it's financial security. In your case, it may be diabetes management, but your finances are off, right? So it doesn't matter. So which is one area that makes you the master? And now comes the question. Why are you the master of that area? And your answer in your head is probably because it's a must. It's not a should. That friend of mine that has saved more money than I have, for him, it is a must that even if it's just 10 euros or $10, right? Every month it's a must for him to invest money and save it, right? So that's why he is the master of his financial security, right? So another person, you might say, like, I'm the master of my diabetes management is great. It's always my A1C is at 6.5, right? And why? Probably because it's a must for you. You measure it all the time. You correct it all the time. You exercise, you eat properly, and you're totally focused on that, right? So you are the master of that domain, regardless of what that area is, because it's an absolute must. If that is true, which I'm 99.99% certain that it is, then the next question is, when you look at the other area, and in this case, in this wheel would be the emotional resilience. If you're in the other area, why are you not the master there yet? So is it possible that you're not the master of that area yet because it's a should and not a must? So if your physical well-being is down, is it true that maybe that it's because it's a should? That, you know, yes, you have other responsibilities, your kids, your work, you know, your friends, whatever it is, right? Other worries, family, right? So that you make it a should. If you go to the gym and you look to people that are really fit and you ask them, you know, why they are fit, they go to the gym no matter what, every day, right? When they travel, they go to the gym at the hotel, right? If need be, they have a yoga mat that they take with them and they exercise in their room, right? So they make it a must. If you're not as physically well as you should, if you wanted to, then it's because you are not that focused as you are focused on in the area that you are the master of. So make it a must. Your job now is that one area that you picked out that you need to build out is to make that area a must, and don't treat it as a should moving forward. I will give you enough tools as we move forward, how to do that and how to condition yourself for success and how to be motivated about that, especially in the next 2 sessions will get you into that zone in a way that you have that motivation, but you have to treat it as a must. So today, I really just want you to make that commitment that this area that you picked for you is a must to build out. And you take now the second worksheet that you have, which is called the list of your coming in things. And what I want you to do is like write down in the next 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever time you need, write down everything that brings you happiness, love, health, success, intelligence, power, growth, contribution, affection, humor in that area that you have picked. Okay, just write it down. Stop the video right now and write it down. But write down a few right now already. So whatever comes to mind, right in your area, what you need to do. Maybe you need to save money. Maybe you need to go to the gym. Maybe you need to walk more often. Maybe you need to meet your sister more often. Whatever it is, write it down. That's just a few things, right? If you have 10 that come to mind right now, awesome. If you only have 1, awesome, right? So we're going to make progress. So here's how your coming in things list should look like. Here's just an random example, right? So I want my A1C at 6.5, right? My life would be great if I had encouragement and praise from my family. I just really need more fun in life, right? I need better healthcare. That maybe I need a better doctor, right? A better nutritionist, right? I need to be more intimate with my partner, right? Because right now I'm not, because I don't feel so great about myself. But that's what I really want. That would help me. I want to eat out more often and enjoy the food. I would like to practice yoga, whatever it is, right? So pick your own list and just write it down in the way that comes down. Edit it, but just write it down as it comes into your head. So, and now I want you to get focused. When you have that list done, I want you to take the list of the going away things from step 1 and bring that with you and compare it with the list that you just produced. There are 2 forces in our brain that drive our behavior, which is the need to avoid pain and the desire to gain pleasure. And what this exercise does with putting together the list of things that I want to go away and things that come in really help us understand where our brain is already aligned. So as a coach, I do not have to work on you anymore. You already know what you need to do, right? Or your brain already knows what you need to do. Your brain is already aligned. All you have done at this point is to write it down in the way that you can read it and understand it. So that's the purpose of this exercise, to align your brain, so to make sure that the thoughts that you have in your head of the things that you hate and the things that you would love to come into your life, that they are aligned. And as a result of that, at the end of this step, we now have a very, very short list, or significantly short list of things that we can do to improve our diabetes by having those forces aligned. When you are done, here's how that might look like. So you have your going away things, and that may have been in step one, my weight, my extremely high blood sugar, my worries over long-term complications, my restrictive diet, right? I would like to enjoy food once in a while and live. My daily stressing of about managing my diabetes, and my low sex drive, right? Which especially for men, for example, when they have started having nerve damage, that happens, right? So whatever it is, right? So those were the things, right? And what I want you to do now is cross off from the list of coming in things that does not match, right? Which is that is not aligned. So look at your going away things list and look at your coming in things list, and see like which thoughts are on both lists. So for example, if on your going away things list, you say, I want my heavy weight to go away, right? On your coming in things list, it should say something like, I want to have lost weight, right? So if, for example, you had like on the going away things list that you want your weight to go away, and you do not have that stated in the positive in the coming in things, you cross it off. It's not, your brain there is right, not aligned, and you do not put a priority on it because your brain hasn't prioritized it yet, right? Doesn't mean that we're not going to prioritize it at one point. At this point, it's not aligned. Your need to avoid pain and your desire to gain pleasure are not aligned. So again, like if it says I want my heavy weight to go away, maybe it says I want to have lost weight, or maybe it says I want to feel like an athlete, right? That maybe that basically says the same, one in the negative, one in the positive. You see two examples here: extremely high blood sugar, worry over long-term complications, and on the coming in things is like I want my A1C be at 6.5, right? So in both those, that one coming in thing actually relates to two things on your going away list, and that is fine as well. So you can keep that. In the end of the day, we will only, as we move forward, only focus on the coming in things. And here's a restrictive diet that you want to go away, and here's like eating out more often. As a going away things here, what is left: daily stress of managing my diabetes. So, and here the correlating coming in thing is encouragement and praise from my family, because if I get that, I feel less stress about it, right? So if you do not find on your going away things, on the list of your going away things, a statement that was expressed in the positive on your coming in things list, you cross that off, right? You only leave the statements that are on both lists. So you've eliminated everything already where your brain is not aligned, okay? So we started out with 7 areas. We started out with maybe thoughts, what we need to improve in all of them. We narrowed it down to 1 area. We now took that area, and we aligned our brains, like where are our forces already pulling us in the right direction. And now we have a much shorter list. Maybe you have 7, 8, 9, 10 items still on. I have some clients that at this point only have 2. Others, they still have 10 or 15 or 20 items on that list. All of that is okay, right? So what we are going to do is in the next step, that's step 3, we will be narrowing it down further. So step 3, what we're going to do is we take all of these action items, even if you just have 1 or 2, ultimately you have 10, but if you have just 1, we take all of those action items and look at what will you actually do and don't do. So you probably know that, right? So there are people that organize well, and if you ask them to organize something, they do it very well and naturally. There are other people, you ask them to do it, they will never do it, right? Because they do not have the natural talent to do that. So the next step, we will figure out, what makes you work, what will you naturally do, and what will you naturally not do. I am, for example, a shortcutter, and you will learn that in the next step as well. So I am not the one who manages the journal and writes down like all of my blood sugar levels and calorie intakes and carb intake and all of that. So yet I need to manage my diabetes in a way that enables me to live healthy. So my approach of doing that is different from somebody who would naturally actually enjoy and thrive on writing everything down and building trend lines and chart and graph and all of that. So that's what we're looking at the next step. So they would take your list where you're already aligned and narrow it down and make sure that as you implement it, you always use your strengths and you're always in the zone. So I see you in step 3. Thank you very much. Bye.